The movie starts with a woman getting attacked and murdered by a dog. There is another woman standing close by who looks at her hatefully, watching the scene unfold without doing anything to help. The scene switches to a funeral being held for the woman who was just killed by the dog in the previous scene. The woman was Jonas' grandmother. Jonas is a teenager who lives with his family on a beautiful, remote German island. His parents are at the funeral with him, devastated by the death of their loved one. 4 months later, Jonas' parents are driving in the car and discussing Jonas' grandfather Friedrich. Jonas' grandfather does not have a good relationship with his own father, but the couple decides that they will try to fix the relationship for the sake of their son. A few moments later, they see a lady driving at full speed in the opposite direction, directly towards their car. Jonas' father tries to avoid the other car but ends up crashing into a nearby tree instead, unliving himself and his wife. The following days, Jonas attends his parents' funeral with his friends Flo, Jewel, and Nina. During the funeral, Jonas is overcome by grief, crying beside his parents' ashes, and his friend Nina consoles him. Later, everyone gathers at Friedrich's house to pay their respects to the family. Friedrich approaches his grandson and tells him that he can stay with him on the island until he is 18 years old and that he doesn't need to move in with his aunt who lives far away. Jonas takes his grandfather's offer because it allows him to stay with his friends. A year later, Jonas is now doing better. He has adjusted to living with his grandfather and gets to spend time with his friends and rides his bike to school with them every day. Jonas is happy despite his circumstances. At school, a woman enters the classroom and instructs the students to follow her outside. The students do as they are told, and as soon as they reach the shore, the woman faces the class and informs them that their German teacher, Mr. Minicki, was injured while on vacation in Mallorca and will be unable to continue teaching them. She then introduced herself to Helena Ying and that she would be replacing Mr. Minicki as their teacher. After class, Jonas and his friends are sitting together when their new teacher Helena approaches them. She asks Jonas and Flo if they are available after class to help her with her furniture. She had just moved to town and needed help moving things around. Nina overhears this and informs Helena that she, too, is available after school. The group agrees to meet Helena at her house after school. Jonas, Flo, and Nina all meet up and ride their bikes to Helena's house. At Helena's house, the boys are upstairs helping her assemble a closet while Nina is downstairs cutting the floorboards and struggling with it. Frustrated, Nina heads to the kitchen to find a better tool that can help her with her task. She finds herself in the storage closet where she finds a suitcase with a tag labeled New Yorker. Before she could investigate further, Helena arrives and asks her what she's looking for. After hearing what Nina needed, Helena hands her a leveling rod to help her with her task. After Nina leaves the storage room, Helena notices the suitcase, realizing that she forgot to remove the tag. Not long after, Helena and the boys finally finish assembling the cabinet upstairs. But their joy is short-lived when Nina walks in with her shoe covered in blood. She had accidentally cut herself while attempting to cut the floorboard. Jonas and Flo help Nina walk outside the house so they can take her to the hospital. With the children gone, Helena goes back to the storage room and tears the tag off the suitcase. Later that night, Helena is sitting alone in her new house. Her table had pictures of Jonas all over it. It appears as if she had been stalking him for quite a while. She then gathers all the photographs, puts them in the sink, and burns them. Is this going to be another teacher-student moment? The next day, Jonas is on his morning jog when he notices Helena running towards him. It turns out that she too is on her morning jog. They talk for a bit and Helena asks Jonas if he and Nina are dating and he says no. She appears to be satisfied with his response. Later at school, Helena asks her students to write a poem similar to what famous poet Rilke writes. The rest are displeased by this request, but Jonas seems unfazed. After school, Nina goes to Jonas' house so he can help her with her poem. He agrees to help Nina write her poem and she is overjoyed. The next day, Nina is reciting her poem to the whole class and Helena suspects that she didn't write it herself. When the class ended, she asks Jonas to stay behind. She confronts him about Nina's poem and he admits that it was written by him. Helena then tells him that she liked it anyway and continues to express how talented she thinks he is. She tells him that she would like to see more if there's anything else he's written in the past. The next morning, Jonas is riding his bike and runs into Helena. He apologizes once again for writing Nina's poem for her, but Helena reminds him that he is an adult who can make his own decisions. Mrs. Helena, is Jonas really an adult though? Unbeknownst to them, Nina sees them driving side by side and becomes suspicious. Later in class, Nina and her seatmate Jewel notice that Helena is behaving strangely and is being extra touchy with Jonas. The two girls watch as their teacher repeatedly stands too close to Jonas while the class is going on. Yeah, she's a groomer. After class, Nina approaches Helena and informs her that Jonas is the author of her poem and that she feels guilty about taking credit for his work. The next day, the school is holding a small seminar where Jonas' grandfather Friedrich is giving a speech. While on stage, he notices Helena standing nearby, watching him. He appears to have seen a ghost and he collapses on the ground in shock. Jonas immediately rushes to help his grandfather. While at home, Nina tells Jonas that she saw Friedrich look at Helena before he collapsed. This leads her to believe that Helena has something to do with the incident with his grandmother, but Jonas refuses to believe her, telling her that her story is too far out. Helena leaves the house upset. Later that night, Jonas wakes up to find Helena sleeping next to him and they end up sleeping together. This is definitely a weird Mrs. Robinson moment. If you know that reference, then you're old like me. The next morning, Helena tries to sneak out of the house as quietly as possible so as not to wake Jonas and Friedrich. Nina, on the other hand, has just arrived with breakfast in hand, ready to apologize to Jonas for what she said last night. She then sees Helena leaving the house, prompting her to angrily leave Jonas' breakfast at the door. You've become the side piece, or even worse, friendzone. Later that day, Nina is running with Jewel on the beach and she tells her friend what she witnessed at Jonas' house that morning as well as what she saw at the seminar. Jewel then tells Nina that her father told her that he had a teacher who looked exactly like Helena. Both girls express their suspicions that there's something off about Helena. At home, Jonas is getting ready for school when his grandfather Friedrich tells him not to go. When Jonas asks him if his strange behavior has something to do with his new teacher, the old man quickly brushes it off. Jonas then tells him what Nina saw at the assembly, but his grandfather says that she must be seeing things. Friedrich then gives Jonas the breakfast that Nina left on their front porch that morning and he realizes that there's a possibility that Nina must have seen Helena leaving the house. At school, Nina is in the library looking at old school yearbooks, looking for proof of her suspicion. As she's flipping through the pages, she comes across a picture of Helena with blonde hair. She had a different name at the time, Maria Roth. Helena then enters the room and Nina confronts her about the picture. Fearful that Nina will tell Jonas, Helena decides to choke Nina and suffocates her to death. Outside, Jonas is looking for Nina but couldn't find her. As he is approaching the library, Helena walks out. Jonas asks her if she has seen Nina but she says no, with Jonas gone to look for Nina elsewhere. Helena walks back inside the library and attempts to hide Nina's body, wrapping it in cloth and securing it with duct tape. She drags the body all the way to her truck without anyone seeing her. As she's about to leave, she notices Nina's bike and decides to take it with her to get rid of any evidence that Nina was at school. That same day, Jonas sees Jewel and Flo on the beach and asks if they have seen Nina and they tell him that she was at school earlier. Meanwhile, Helena is on the opposite side of the beach disposing of Nina's body along with her bike. The next morning, Jonas is awakened by his grandfather who informs him that the police discovered Nina's body on the beach. Jonas and Friedrich rush to the scene and see Nina's mother crying while she is being consoled by her family. Looking at the scene, Friedrich once again collapses to the ground in distress and they take him to the hospital. This man's going to die from hitting his head. Back at home with his friend Flo, they realize that Nina's death was not an accident. They head to the school to investigate, following in Nina's footsteps. At the library, they pull out a bunch of yearbooks from the previous years and start looking through them. A devastated Jewel arrives and helps them with their investigation. She tells them about what her father told her and they begin to look for Jewel's father's yearbook. When they finally find it, they see that a page has been ripped out. Unfazed by this, the group proceeds to look at the school archives and finds a picture of a young Friedrich with Maria Roth, a woman who looks exactly like Helena but with blonde hair. They are then shocked to learn that she drowned 4 years after the picture was taken. Meanwhile, Helena pays Friedrich a visit at the hospital who appears to be terrified by her. She accuses him of murdering her mother. It is then revealed that Friedrich is her biological father, making her Jonah's aunt. I shouldn't be shocked that this would be a Sweet Home Alabama moment, but here we are. My jury's on the floor. While Helen's knees were on the floor earlier with her nephew, Friedrich got Maria Roth pregnant but didn't want anything to do with it. Helena then returns to avenge her mother, hurting everyone connected to Friedrich to punish him. First his wife, his son, and his daughter-in-law, then Nina, and now his grandson Jonas. The next morning, Jonas is sleeping in the living room when he is woken by an ambulance delivering his grandfather home. He opens the door to see Helena with Friedrich. He is extremely suspicious now that he knows her secret. When he asks her why she is there with his grandfather, she tells him that she was visiting Friedrich when the doctors told her that he could be discharged. Jonas confronts her and asks her if her mother is Maria Roth. She tells him that she will tell him everything, but she wants to make them coffee first. Helena walks back inside the house, leaving Jonas waiting in the backyard. She prepares the coffee but pours powder into Jonas' cup. She then makes Friedrich watch from the window but he is powerless since he is still unable to move. In the backyard, Helena tells Jonas everything, revealing to him that she is his aunt. Meanwhile, Jonas is feeling the effects of the powder, leading him to collapse. The idea that he slept with his aunt probably made him feel nauseous as well. Helena drags him into the nearby lake and attempts to drag him but Jonas, with his last remaining energy, tries to fight Helena, hitting her with a net. He runs back to the house and discovers his grandfather on the ground, holding a letter that Maria Roth sent him, with glass shattered around him. Helena then attacks Jonas and begins to choke him, but before he runs out of breath, he grabs a shard of glass and drives it into Helena's chest, unliving her. A few days later, Jonas is on a ship leaving the island. He sees a girl wearing a yellow raincoat, the same one that Helena used to wear. He decides to follow the girl, only to realize that she's just a regular tourist. Relieved, Jonas can now begin a new chapter in his life, and he's going to have to live with the fact that he lost his V-card to his aunt, giving Jonas no vibes. What did you guys think of this movie? Wild and twisted, sick, yet mesmerizing. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like, it really helps the channel.